Hello, Star Wars and unboxing fans. Welcome to an on the road, thoughts behind the wheel episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars unboxing show. Not fully Star Wars today, no real unboxing. So if that's not your thing, I can already tell you, just don't watch this episode. I'm actually on my way. First of all, what am I doing? I'm on my way. I'm not on a toy hunt today. I am on my way because I collect many things related to Star Wars. As you can see, anybody who's watched the channel for many years, for the nearly 4 or 5 years now, I think we're up to 5 years that I've been running, going to be 5 years in the fall. I will collect many different types of things. Okay, yeah, I'm square, like in the wheelhouse in the center of vintage. Okay, the original 70s and 80s, mostly toys, but other ephemera and products. Okay, along with the vintage collection. Okay, and some Disney Star Wars crossovers, whatever they may be, Galaxy's Edge or Halcyon related. Okay, those are my main areas of collecting. Okay, some oddball things here and there. But one of the things that I collect that I forgot to kind of share out is I collect experiences. And you know, if you think about the Galactic Star Cruiser Halcyon, that was kind of probably the ultimate Star Wars experience, right? But there are many types of Star Wars experiences that one can experience and then out in the world. And when I say many, I mean many mostly relating to basically music. So I'm on my way to my old college, which was Trenton State College. It's now the College of New Jersey, which is only about a 35-40 minute drive from my home. And the reason I'm going there is because there is a concert taking place tonight, not by a collegiate ensemble, but rather by a group called the Eastern Wind Symphony. Now, the Eastern Wind Symphony is a group of professional musicians that are not, you know, we're not talking about the New York Philharmonic or the Philadelphia Orchestra or Cleveland Symphony. No, but we are talking about very talented, very professional level grade musicians that have formulated this wind ensemble, or wind symphony sometimes it's called, or concert band, and they play top level professional grade music in performance. And I honestly, in full disclosure, as a music teacher and as somebody who actually knows people personally that are in the ensemble, because it's made up of a lot of music teachers, you would think that I would be more active in the realm of going to see them, but life gets in the way. I have a family, I have a second job, and this channel, and a lot of things that kind of keep me busy, so I don't get there very often. But they're putting on a concert this evening that I am just too excited to miss, and that is an evening with John Williams. Now, no, John Williams isn't coming to conduct, but they are performing all John Williams music. Now, there's quite a few. There's music from Harry Potter. There's music from other movie franchises, Liberty Fanfare, a few other ones, but a lot of music from the Star Wars trilogy. Finding interestingly enough, I don't know if that means just the trilogy, the original trilogy, or if there's anything from the prequels or the sequel trilogy. I don't know, but I'm excited to come and see this. I also, as I said, have some colleagues and friends that are in the event. In fact, years ago, it used to be a lot of my college friends, but a lot of them have since moved on to doing other things. But there's still a few of them that are there. And more importantly than that, a very good friend of mine and colleague that I work with now that has been on the channel. You might know him as Maestro Windu. He is going to be performing on trumpet. So I am very excited to go and see this group. I don't know if I can get any recording in. I might try to sneak a little bit in. But if I do, it'll be just a very small amount, just a sample. So, I'll do that. That'll be, if I can get that in at all. So don't expect much with that. But I did want to say that going to see a concert is one of the greatest ways that you can fuel your Star Wars passion. How do you do that? Well, generally speaking, anywhere you live, doesn't matter where you live, if you do some sleuthing, some internet sleuthing, you will find that you probably have local orchestras, community bands, and more than likely, they're going to be putting on concerts. And this time of year, in May and June. Oh, I'm just moved sideways there. Sorry, a lot of bumps. In May or June, there tends to be a big push for summer blockbuster movie music, right? Movies that, this road needs a serious amount of work. Movies and music that are from film, big bombastic blockbuster movies. So, myself wait until I get past I need to find a better way to do this. So, okay, we're on smooth road now. So, that's a great way to do it. So I recommend, you do some research to look up just like community orchestra, type in the name of your town, and see if they have a band or an orchestra. And even if that is something that's okay. So I would recommend reaching out to your local, just literally type the name of your town and put down, name of your town, community band, community orchestra, symphony orchestra, all little things, okay? And also, check near the cities that you live, because there are some big time orchestras. I mean, even in New Jersey, we have the New Jersey Symphony. They do some pretty cool stuff. I mean, I'm sure you've seen these things come along all the time. One thing that very major symphony orchestras are doing is they're showing films with the orchestra providing the live soundtrack. That is an amazing way to get your Star Wars fix, and they're doing it all over now. I mean, literally right now, I know that one orchestra play is doing both The Force Awakens with a film, and then the original New Hope. I believe another one was doing Empire Strikes Back. I mean, this is all in the span of 1 year, or within half a year. So you can really do some serious checking out. And above all, if you live near a major symphony, look at their schedule, look for John Williams. Now, let's be honest, John Williams is in his 90s now, okay? He's also made some cancellations of trips to Europe. The reason for that is because for health concerns. Now, let's face it, the man is in his 90s. Health concerns are a natural part of being 90, but it does mean that he may be being prepared to retire from the conducting scene. Even if he did continue to conduct, or does continue to conduct, I know for a fact that as of recently, he conducts only part of it, and it gets he shares the duties with other people. Like, he'll come out and do his staple, Imperial March, Raiders March, all that kind of stuff. But other people will come out, the regular conductor will come out and do that. He's had developed great working relationships with conductors like Gustavo Dudamel and things like that. So, but he might still be. So if you see that he's touring and he's performing in your hometown or near your hometown, look, it's expensive. I'm not going to lie. It's not cheap to see John Williams, but it's worth it to be in the room with him. I got to tell you, there's an energy in the room that is palpable, and I just can't stress it enough. Go and see it, because that the days are numbered when that's going to be available. I'm not saying that he's any close to passing away. I don't know the future, but even just being close to not being able to conduct anymore. So I had the good fortune of seeing him twice, once with the New York Philharmonic, once with the Philadelphia Orchestra. He conducted both things the entire night. It was amazing. I'm good with it. Okay, not that if I get an opportunity to see him again, I will. But local groups like I'm going to see now are doing this kind of stuff all the time. They know that John Williams music will attract a huge audience. So check them out. All right, and the only other thing I wanted to just briefly mention at the time of this recording, I just finished Andor, season 2, episodes 10, 11, and 12. Wrapped up the series. My thoughts on it are pretty simple. I thought it was great. I thought it was a unique flavor of Star Wars. I appreciated, there's a lot of talk. And again, I like to sift through a lot of the talk, because I feel like some people just like to, how do I put this? And please feel free to give your own comments. And if you disagree with me, I'm curious to see your thoughts on it. But listen to the things that I say, because you know, they may respond. They may already pre-respond is what some of you might think. There's been a lot of talk about the amazing, huge success of Andor and how it is, you know, Star Wars for grown-ups. Another thing I've heard is, you know, just Star Wars but with good writing. And it's like, okay, I get that. I understand that. And as I mentioned, it's a flavor. It's a good flavor. You know, I can think of it like an ice cream parlor, and you go in and you always, you know, you go to, like, I'm one who likes to go and find my favorite flavor, you know, and go to my peanut butter ripple, by the way, is one of my favorite flavors. It's vanilla peanut butter ripple. But that doesn't mean I always get vanilla peanut butter ripple. Sometimes I'll get chocolate and vanilla together. Sometimes I'll get cookies and cream. Sometimes I'll get sherbet, you know. It's nice to have variety. That's my feeling. And while I loved Andor, and I really did love it, and I did think the writing was great. I did think the character development was amazing. They made me care about these characters, okay? They made me care more about Cassian. They made me care more about Mon Mothma. And I feel very strongly that when given the freedom to do that, I think that it's a good thing. I just sometimes, where my brain goes sometimes, is that I feel like when something like this is successful, it sometimes in some people's mind makes it seem like, oh, all the other stuff that Disney's put out has been crap. It's been horrible. And this is finally something good. And it's like, really? That's what you're feeling? Because I seem to recall a lot of people liking Skeleton Crew. I seem to recall Mandalorian being a pretty darn popular thing. I seem to recall Ahsoka being a pretty popular thing, so much so that they're making a second season. So I feel, in a way, like it feels like it comes down to this, and I think, you know, something as an aging, or not even as an aging teacher, but as a music director in a school, kids sometimes want me to say things like when we do a musical or we have a concert or the marching band performs at a competition. They want me to say things like, that was the best performance in my whole career. That was the best musical, the best concert in my entire career. You guys performed better than anyone I've ever worked with. And I've always been very hesitant to do that. Because when I have a musical performance moment that I'm really happy with, I just like to live in that moment. That moment was amazing. And I'll always cherish that moment. And the next year, it'll be a new moment. But it's not the same moment, and it's not a moment that I really need to compare to the first moment. This one is different. So, and there's all sorts of reasons for why it's different, okay? And I just feel like when it comes to the streaming series, the movies, whether they're standalone movies like Rogue One or Solo, or what's coming up, Mandalorian and Grogu, or their saga movies, episodes 7, 8, and 9. I just feel like they're all different, and they should be different. So that's kind of my take on it. Another thing that I wanted to talk about before I finish. So again, loved Andor, thought it was great, thought it was phenomenal. Thought the writing was great. Thought it was very mature. It was Star Wars for adults, I suppose you could say, is a good way to put it. I hope they don't only make stuff like Andor now. I guess that's where I'm going at. It's because some people, like, I'm reading articles, or I'm reading article titles, because I don't really want to hit the clickbait. What Disney can learn from Andor. Okay, now don't get me wrong. I'm not a defend Disney till my dying breath all the time ever. I recognize that there can be executive meddling. There could be creative differences, and maybe we should go one way versus another. Okay? But for the most part, my take on that is just, there have been a lot of different people that have sat in that director's chair, that sat in that creative chair, and wanted to see their flavor of Star Wars. So let's talk about it. You know, we got sequel trilogy. Now, I've said this before. My one concern and complaint about the sequel trilogy is, I still love it. I still watch it when it comes on. I still turn it on from time to time, and I'll watch episode 7 or 8. sorry, right? Yeah, 7 or 8 or 9. My only issue is that it felt like they weren't really fleshing out the characters fully. And they were just kind of coming up with new stories because, with each passing director and each passing movie. Having said that, I also have said that George Lucas did the same thing. The only difference was George Lucas was one guy. Now, I think that maybe some people like to put George Lucas on a pedestal and say it was his movie. It was his independent film. He could do what he wanted. Yes, he could. He's right, and you're right. I have no issue with that. But when I look at how much people now are embracing the prequels, I remember the disdain and the discord about the prequels. I wasn't part of it. I liked the prequels. I went out and bought the Jar Jar lollipop, the tongue lollipop. I went out and bought the action figures. Okay, but I remember seeing all the articles. I remember seeing the jokes, the memes as the memes became a thing. So I get it. And I understand why people sometimes get angry. They want to have their Star Wars, the Star Wars that they created in their brain, and this wasn't that for some of them. Some people embraced it and said, "This is awesome. This is awesome. I love this." But other people, not so much. But now the kids who really loved it, because remember, as George Lucas has said, he designed it for 12-year-olds. As 22, 32, and 42-year-olds, they actually love it. And now we're getting things like Ahsoka, where we see Anakin, and we see and shows like Obi-Wan fighting, rematch with Vader and stuff like that. So I love that, and I don't want to see that go away. I mean, I'd like to see what else they can come up with, and I'd like to see if they want to try to tell other stories. I think, with other characters, a little bit more brooding, a little bit more intense. I'm okay with that too. I just kind of want to make sure that the flavor palette is still there. Not all just one thing. And I applaud Disney, and I applaud Kathleen Kennedy, because they stuck to their guns, and they tried different things. All right, Book of Boba Fett, I still love Book of Boba Fett. It hit me in the Return of the Jedi feels. It did. Climbing, blowing up the Sarlacc. I love that. Fire spray. Whatever. I love that. And I love the Tusken Raiders no longer. And yeah, I know for some people that's woke. Okay. And by the way, if this loses subscribers, whatever. To me, woke, enough for people. All right. Woke just means, all I basically think woke is in the most simplistic form is simply saying, you know what? Just because things worked out for you, or just because you overcame whatever obstacles you did, it doesn't mean it's the same for everybody else. Everyone else can struggle in ways that you may not understand. And maybe, just maybe, we need a little empathy. That's it. Done. That's what being woke is. Maybe we understand that a person who doesn't look like you, that's the hero of a story, that person may be a good hero for someone else because that hero looks like them. End of story. That's what it is. So to me, I take woke as a compliment. So, but I'll get off on that. Anyway, I just feel like in the end that they threw a lot of different ideas at the table. Some stuck beautifully, some stuck okay. And yeah, the ones that stuck beautifully, they're going to make more. I'm sure there's something down the road for that. So anyway, I'm happy we have Andor added to the pile. And it's funny because nowadays I don't really have a bookshelf full of DVDs or Blu-ray anymore. I mean, I still have some, but I haven't purchased all the series on Blu-ray. I just watch them on Disney Plus. But I have found myself looking at Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, all the seasons of Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, and Andor. To me, they're all Star Wars. And episodes 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, and of course 4, 5, 6. Both original, special edition, and let's throw in the holiday special in there, and droids and Ewoks, and Clone Wars and Rebels, and Bad Batch, and Tales of series. Oh my God, there's so much awesome Star Wars out there. People, if you don't like something, watch something else. That's my thought. Okay. So let's go see this amazing band do some concert stuff. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. I mean, I'm in the car driving. What do you want? You know, my thoughts. I'll try to trim it down, edit it down a little bit. Another thing I wanted to talk about was I was feeling this. Speaking of feeling nostalgia, I was thinking about, you know, I am so grateful for Disney purchasing Star Wars, for it becoming more of an experiential thing in the parks, like particularly Walt Disney World. I just love that. That is something that I've really connected with ever since Star Tours opened, and my very first trip to Disneyland, on a college trip, and my brother and I went to Disneyland for a day, and it took us 3 hours to get online, go on Star Tours, go through the shops, and pick up the Star Tours posters and stuff. I'm very attached to that aspect of my fandom and collecting. That experiential Star Wars, we owe a lot to Michael Eisner for partnering up with George Lucas to do things like that. That and Indiana Jones in the parks. We owe a lot to Lucas for selling Star Wars to Disney and allowing Disney to do that. But I thought about something like, I'll often say this on my channel, like, you know, guys, just remember something. You've got 5, 6 new series that you can take or leave, right? A sequel trilogy, in addition to the first 2 trilogies. More cartoon series, an entire land devoted to Star Wars. You could have had, without any of that, and with George Lucas just kept it just to maybe some animation, if he had not sold Star Wars, what would we have had besides some animation? Star Wars Angry Birds, Star Wars Family Guy, Star Wars Robot Chicken. I mean, they're nice. And then we would have, but another thing that we did have, and I was thinking about this the other day, and this is something else I wanted to talk about on this episode, was Star Wars Weekends. Star Wars Weekends, for those younger folk, was an event that took place in May and June in Hollywood Studios. And it ran for a long time, like at least a decade or longer, maybe 15, 20 years. And it was basically like 2, 3, 4 weekends in a row where there were a weekend full of events, kind of a mini Star Wars celebration. And it was so awesome. I'm gonna, to avoid my talking so much and just seeing my ugly mug, here's some videos, here's some pictures of some of the advertising that they did. I mean, this is before Disney bought Star Wars, so Disney had to get Lucasfilm's permission for these. But I always thought it was pretty well done. It was at a time when Star Wars, the prequels had ended. Well, I think the prequels were actually in the midst of happening. But then they ended, and it was just a great time to be had by all. They didn't take themselves so seriously. Disney was not producing new Star Wars, so they were just embracing Star Wars as a thing. So what was cool about this was that it would be multiple weekends in a year, and they would have guests, and a lot, the standard people like Anthony Daniels and Warwick Davis and Ray Park and Jeremy Bullock and other people would be there, and they would have a little mini parade with them on the back, sitting on the back of cars, sitting on the backs, of a convertible, kind of waving, and there'd be music playing, and they would invite Rebel Legion and 501st costumers to come and march in the parade. I mean, and then they would also have like Mickey dressed as a Jedi and Goofy dressed as Vader, but he had like you could see his face, and he had like like heart shorts on. Like, it was very bizarre. It was a weird time. He had Donald as a stormtrooper, you had Minnie as Leia. It was just so interesting and weird. But I mean, it was great. They had signings everywhere. They would have special programs that you could go see. Of course, they had tons, and I mean tons, of merch that people would be wait in line to go see, to go get. We only did one, believe it or not. I wish I could have done more, but it was just hard to get down there in May for a band director with concerts and everything. It's just so hard to do. And I mean, it was something. It was really something. And one of the things they did was they had what they called dance off with the Star Wars stars. It was kind of like a hyperspace hoopla. This was bizarre, man. They would bring the Star Wars characters, fully movie accurate dressed Disney cast members, dressed as characters, all of them, coming out and doing dances to modern day pop songs. And it was funny, and sometimes the words were funny, and it kind of, with they would have Padme dancing with Vader. It was like hot and you're cold, you're yes and you're no, you're in and you're out, you're up and you're, and it was funny, but it was also kind of like, oh, it kind of like cringe. There was a little bit of cringe to it. So, but but we loved it because we got our Star Wars fix. You know what I mean? So it was a great time, but at the same time, it was also kind of weird, and they would, they would come out with Star Wars, Disney characters dressed as Star Wars characters, like kind of Disney characters cosplaying in figure form. I've showed that on the episode. You can go look back on that. And it was great. But when Disney bought Star Wars, that went away. And I thought that was a very telling and interesting thing. And I remember there was an interview with somebody involved with the parks, and they said, we're concerned about, we're concerned about being inappropriate with the integrity of Star Wars characters. So not only did we stop the Star Wars weekends, and not only did they stop the hyperspace hoopla and all that stuff, they stopped the Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald dressing up, all that. The figures, they stopped doing that. They just ran out their stock, and that was it. And, they did the Star Tours 2.0 thing. That had just come into play right before they bought it. But, it was interesting. It was a very weird time. So, and I will say, I do miss the Star Wars weekend bit. I feel like they could still do stuff. I mean, they do Star Wars nights at Disneyland, and it seems pretty popular. I was just there. And the other day I was watching videos of May the 4th. I mean, that's a whole thing now. And that's before May the 4th even happened, the Star Wars weekends. So, just, an interesting time. So I really hope that maybe they'll think about that. I mean, I understand now we have a whole land. I mean, I think the one area that I know is somewhat problematic is that I know that they want to have a land where you're immersed in Star Wars, where they don't even know what Star Wars is because you're just in the world. And I love that. But I do think there's room for that and Star Tours where you're just enjoying Star Wars. You know what I mean? As a fan of the movies, not someone who wants to live in Star Wars necessarily, but someone who just wants to be an observer to it. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, I'm actually almost in my destination. So let's get going with this. As I said, I'm not sure if you're going to see any music or hear any music, but if I can sneak at least a little bit in, I'll try. Okay? Let's see how it goes. So that was awesome. I managed to acquire some video clips that I inserted in this video. And just walking around the college campus here. This is the College of New Jersey, as I mentioned. It's actually the school I went to. Back then it was Trenton State College. It's been a long time since I've been back. Just enjoying the night air, walking here. I forgot, it's summertime. And their classes just ended. But that was epic. I was surprised at how different most of the music was pretty spot on. The orchestral to band transcriptions, I'm a string guy, so I know, meaning I play violin, and I know what it's supposed to sound like. And the transcriptions were mostly exact. They just gave the violin parts, cello and viola, bass parts to other instruments. However, with Star Wars, particularly with Yoda's theme and with the main title, it was a very, very different piece. I mean, different enough that I was just seemed almost like a new piece to me. And of course, there was moments that were very similar, but a lot of it was different. Not bad, just good. It was good. It was nice. It was a refreshing take on something. You hear it a certain way your whole life, and it was different. But such a great experience. So I guess this is an unboxing video. Today I unboxed an experience, and I hope you enjoyed it. As I'm heading out, I want to thank you guys for going on this journey with me today. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Check me out on all the socials, Instagram, Bluesky, Darth Tuba's unboxing page on Facebook. There will be more traditional unboxings. Leave a comment if you like this one. This is the Trenton State or TC&J Golden Lions. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next time, may the Force and the toys and all the Star Wars experiences be with you.